20th of January, July, Rabbi Furst, Mishna Berura.
Hello again.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. This is again Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshiva Samanashi here in Yerushalayim. Kirev Zun is our second shiur in Mishna Berura Hilchos Tisha B'Av in Siman Kaf Kuf Nun Aleph. Should just mention, by the way, that since Tisha B'Av is getting closer and closer, that means the time to start practicing our shofar blowing is getting close also. So,
oh yeah, thanks for the reminder.
you can dust off your shofar and you can start getting get warmed up. Never, as I always say the joke. The joke. If you're New Yorker, you really can appreciate this joke. You've heard it before. I'll say it again. The guy comes out of the outer towner, comes out of the Grand Central Station in New York. He took the train to New York City to Manhattan. Comes out onto the street from Grand Central Station. He asks the first person he comes to. He says, "How do you get to Carnegie Hall?" So
Practice.
Right. That's the joke, right?
You told that one last year, Rabbi.
Yeah, no, it's an old but good joke. I like it very much.
It's one of the standards.
Yeah, that's right. So, but it's true. You practice, you'll get there. Be'ez Hashem. It's not blowing shofar is not a hard thing. It's just takes a little practice. Be'ez Hashem. So you can, a few minutes. Even now, once a week, even just once a week now is good. And then as we get closer on, then a few minutes every day, and you'll be in good shape. Be'ez Hashem. Okay. Let's begin the mechaber again. We did the mechaber, but we'll review it again. Go on into the Ramon. Tav Kuf Nun Aleph again in Mr. Berura in the mechaber. Tav Kuf Nun Aleph.
Tav Kuf Yud or Nun? Nun Aleph.
Nun Aleph.
Nun Aleph. Okay, let's see.
Either Meir, you can read, or Lou, whoever would like.
Maybe I'll read since I missed last class.
Yes, that's no problem.
Is that okay, Meir?
It's fine with me.
Misha Nichnas Av Mi Ma'atin B'Simcha. When Av enters, we reduce happiness. Uvar Yisrael deis lei nida bahade kusi lish to meet mine deria mazale. So what is ubar? I don't know ubar.
Literally, bar means a ben or ben Yisrael, meaning a Jewish person. We say Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Right.
It's the resh and the noon interchange. One's Aramaic and one's Lashon HaKodesh.
Okay, all right. So a Jew, deis lei dina, that he is judged. That he has a judgment, meaning a court case.
Yes, that's right.
Bahade kusi, with a non-Jew.
Right.
Lish to meet mine, he should avoid it. Deria Mazale, because of bad mazel.
Right. And it's not an auspicious time for the Jew now, so it's better if you can avoid the court case with the non-Jew.
So how does that fit with the statement Ein Mazel b'Yisrael?
They're talking about different contexts. The statement Ein Mazel Yisrael is referring to the fact that there's no fixed mazel for the Jews, meaning since we have the power to pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we have the Torah, which we learn in the mitzvahs of the Torah, which we fulfill. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if he so wishes, will even change mazel, or even change teve, will do miracles for the Klal Yisrael. So therefore, we have the ability, right? We have the ability to rise above the natural order and ways of the world. And we're not doomed, fated to be supervised and managed in the natural order of things. We can supersede that. But that there is such a thing as mazel, and there are times when it's stronger and times when it's weaker. And now this time of year is a weak time for the Jewish mazel. It's a very weak time of year for the Jewish mazel. So therefore, it's best to try and avoid any conflicts with or disputes with the non-Jew, because we're fighting against the tide of a weak mazel at this time.
So if I go to court during the 3 weeks with a non-Jew, and I lose the case because of bad mazel, in other words, I should have won the case because my cause was just, but I lost it because it was the 3 weeks. How does that fit in with the idea of Hashem doing justice?
Because everything here in this world is subject to mazel, right? And the outcome of the things which we see in this world is to some extent predetermined, right? And nevertheless, we have the ability through our prayers that we can appeal to Kadosh Baruch Hu's mercies and have mercy on us, and therefore change things on our behalf. But now, even with our prayers, the ability for our prayers to be effective at this time is less than it is under normal circumstances. So it's better to avoid the conflict and dispute with a non-Jew, because you're now forced to use extra efforts to try and be successful. And there's never a guarantee you're going to be successful. But in general, there are other times which are more fortunate to do these things rather than now. It's during these 3 weeks we don't say Shechianu, and there are many other. You'll see other halachas that it's a time of danger in certain respects, a time of certain dangers in the world at this time. So we try and take precautions. So this is also a situation where you want to take a precaution not to incite the wrath of the non-Jews. It's not a good time to get a non-Jew upset at you.
So when we say there are dangers, what are we talking about? What is the mechanism going on here? Hashem is withdrawing his involvement and saying you're you're on your own. Teva is going to take its effect, or is Hashem actually saying, "I'm going to rule against you, even though you're right"? What's the mechanism going on here?
Teva has more influence. Teva has more influence now than normal, right? There's more influence of Teva at this time than normal. That also has to do with the way that these days now are the longest days of the year, and classically speaking, that means there was less Torah being learned, because classically speaking, Torah was usually learned at night rather during the day. During the day, most people were busy doing whatever they were doing, making a living, working in the fields, they were busy with activities. The time to learn that people would set aside would be at night. So with nights are very short now, so there's a lack of Torah. So correspondingly, the lack of Torah causes there should be a lack of siyata d'shmaya. So therefore, it's a weak time, and we're more subject to the rules of the natural processes of Teva than normally during the rest of the year.
So it happened to me many years ago. During the 3 weeks, we went on a not a river rafting, but a boating on a river in Central California. It was, we were on these little rubber boats, and on the bus ride, when we were going from the place where we rented the boats to the river, they made an announcement that there are currents in the river, and be careful because you can get you can get sucked into the bushes. Sure enough, my son lost control of his little dinghy, and he went on the side of the river. He got pulled by the current, and I was following him. So I went right behind him, and I lost control also. And both of us got sucked under the bushes. Our boats capsized, and my son was very young. This was Yosef. He was I don't know, maybe he was 8, something like that. And so I swam over to him, and it was very difficult because we were literally in the bushes that were sticking down into the water. And, so in the course of rescuing him, I dislocated my shoulder.
Wow.
And fortunately, we were rescued. There was a boat, a police boat, patrolling, and I called out to them, and they came and they got him. And I was able, even though my arm was dislocated, I was able to swim. Fortunately, I'm a good swimmer. I was able to swim to the boat and get on it. And then when we realized that my arm was dislocated, they called the medical, and an ambulance came, and I went to the hospital, and I was treated, and thank God I was fine. But I did suffer from the dislocated shoulder. And after it was over, my wife said to me, it's the 3 weeks. And so my question is, how should I interpret that? Normally, I think probably I would say, okay, this bad thing happened to me. I should examine my deeds and see if I can figure out if there's some kind of a message or something I should learn from this, or something I should do or change in my life. Does that not apply because it's the 3 weeks? I just say, well, it happened because it's the 3 weeks, and that's it. That's the end of story.
No, I would say even though it may be that there was a more of a risk factor during these 3 weeks, but nevertheless, if there are two things. First of all, even if nothing happens, even let's say a person will do something risky during these 3 weeks and nothing will happen. So it could be a Kadosh Baruch Hu who's going to use have extra mercy on the person for whatever reason, but that may affect his reward in Olam Haba, meaning he might be using his huyos, he might be using merits that otherwise would have been saved for a reward in Olam Haba, rather than using them to elicit, in effect, Rachmanis, mercy on the part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's number one. And then even if something does happen, right, it still is a cause. Anything that happens, either regardless of what happens, whether it's on a Yom Tov for Shabbos or weekday during the 3 weeks, we always want to try and analyze to some extent what happens to us and how that fits into the matrix of our behavior in terms of the interface between what we do and what a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do. So it's always a vehicle for having us to do a introspection of Cheshbon Nefesh, whatever happens to us. There's a greater control over the physical world has a greater control over the spiritual aspects of our lives during these 3 weeks than normal. So therefore, it's more risky to do things that are more physical. The more physical you are during these 3 weeks, the more you're falling into the mechanism of Teva. You want to try and avoid the mechanism of Teva. Anytime you want to try and be above the mechanism of Teva. It's not nice to be in the mechanism of Teva, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to live in a spiritual way and to have a spiritual accomplishments, right? So we want to try and get above the mechanisms of Teva. So when a person is going to be doing things which are clearly physically orientated, so that's going to put him into the mechanisms of Teva, which he would really, anytime during the year, to try and avoid unless it's necessary. But here, it's even an added element of risk, which may not exist. There's a higher element of risk which doesn't exist than at other times during the year.
So if I had gone on the same exact trip and I had not had the accident, then you're saying that I lose out on my Olam Haba because Hashem protected me?
Again, only a Kadosh Baruch Hu knows what's involved. But if anytime during the year, if a person's going to put himself into a risky situation, right? Person's not supposed to put himself into a risky situation, right? And the fact that a person will put himself into a risky situation, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu will save him from anything that could possibly have happened because of the higher risks. So it does in fact withdrawing from his bank account of merits. Yeah. Only a Kadosh Baruch Hu knows exactly when and if and how much. That we can't make those estimations, and that they're way beyond us.
So I can understand that if a person puts himself in a risky situation, that he's done something wrong. He's been arrogant, whatever. He's done something wrong, and that's gonna detract from him, from his bank account, as you say. But if he's not done something wrong, let's say a person does chesed, and he's a Baal chesed. He really goes out of his way to do chesed. So he is making himself into a certain kind of person. He's refining his personality by making himself into a Baal chesed. So now he's going to go to Olam Haba, and he's going to find that he is going to be in a position to get greater pleasure from being in that environment in Olam Haba, because he has made himself into such a refined person that he's a Baal Chesed. Now, let's say that he's doing his Chesed in this world. He hasn't gone to Olam Haba yet, and Hashem rewards him. Hashem gives him great wealth, let's say. And now he comes to Olam Haba. And his Olam Haba is diminished because he got that big reward. What sense does that make? The reward didn't change his personality. I mean, assuming that he made good use of that money, he didn't let it cause him to become arrogant or blah 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 blah. He didn't make a mistake. He is the person he is. He's the same person, and he's going to therefore be experiencing the pleasure of Olam Haba. It would seem to me, to the same extent, irrespective of the fact that he received that reward. Why would the receiving of the reward take away from anything in Olam Haba in that case?
The Gemara speaks about I think it was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was very, very poor, very poor. You may know that he would eat only from Shabbos to Shabbos. He would only eat a basket of carobs, and that was what he would sustain himself on during the week. And so, if I'm not mistaken, one time his wife was complaining bitterly that it was too much. It was just too much. So from heaven came a leg of a table made of gold. He sent them a leg of a table made from gold, right? So with that gold, they would have been very, very well off. So it was told to him that the gold is his, but he should know that's one of the gold legs of his table in Olam Haba. They're giving one of his legs of his table in Olam Haba. They're giving one of the gold legs. So he refused and said he didn't want it. He didn't want to take it. He would rather have that in Olam Haba rather than in Olam Hazeh. Okay, anyway, we see our time is 1 second. Good morning, Yaakov. Hold on 1 second, please. 1 second. Yeah, so that's just the way it works. Again, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows these things, what the checks and balances of rewards and punishments in Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba, and the interface between the two how the checks and balances of rewards and punishments interface between Olam Haba and Zeh. These are things which Hakadosh Baruch Hu will do the spiritual accounting. We are not spiritual accountants, but it's known the person that has the ability to gain merits and save them for Olam Haba, and at the same time he can cash in, and one way, willingly or unwillingly, he can cash in on his merits in this world as well. Okay, continue tomorrow if you like. Mitzvah Shem. I hope to see you both. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Lou.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. Be well.
Okay. Okay.